Sciomancy, Malediction, and Rites Abominable is the debut full-length album from Necromaniac. This is a group from London, England, and they play a mix of black and death metal influenced extreme thrash metal of the mid to late 80s is the way that I put it here. There's a morbid death metal feeling to it of the late 80s. There's a little bit of a black metal touch in the first wave sense to some of their work, but there's also a strong component of thrash metal that is the glue that holds all these ideas together. And I wouldn't say that these are observations that come from any sort of mainstream proposal. This is a dark underground influenced record that maybe has a feature to it that really starts back in the day with the demo era of Morbid Angel, as well as Hellowaite's era Slayer, and the way that they write and compose songs. I feel like early Slayer is probably where a lot of the sort of impetus of their idea comes from, but we could identify any number of bands along the way, whether it's Sadistic Intent, Vampire, or Slaughterlord en masse, and we get a sense for there's an early extreme thrash pull to this band, especially where they started out. Now, death thrash was more their focus early on, and that was a different configuration of the band. They had their lifetime and they lived through it, but now in this new form and the different lineup with a different front man here in terms of the vocals, we get something that is a little bit more blackened, still black thrashing and death thrashing in that sense, but they've blurred the line a little bit more here with this debut full-length album, in the sense that they're bringing in a little bit more of that black metal and changing the focus of this record. And I'll talk more about where I think a lot of that inspiration comes from and the way that it reads. But first, we'll listen to a clip here and work from there. So with all of these things colliding at once, we do get an album that represents or resembles a lot of peak everything in sort of consideration for the morbid black death metal of the 80s, as well as thrash metal in the way that fueled a lot of the speed and energy and darker themes that went into that. Negative Plane is a good place to start as well, because we do find a lot of the presentation style and the general sphere of that band feeding into the way that this album is generally composed as a whole. I think the larger arc tells a story, or at least presents itself in a way that is similar to the way that the more extended recent works of Negative Plane have. But this is a band that sounds a bit more like Mortuary Drape or Slayer or whatnot. It's a little bit more direct in terms of reaching for something that is more thrash metal oriented and less interested in the full dramatic presentation of a concept album. This is an album that demands patience. It develops its songs patiently. It takes its time in finding the rhythms, and it enjoys a lot of replay value because of that, because essentially it works through those ideas in a deliberate way that makes sure you don't miss any of it. And it's not that it's slow, it's that it's deliberate. And what I mean is that every note is placed with purpose. Every hit is meant to sound a certain way. And so it is meticulous, while it's also a little bit scatterbrained in the way that some of these ideas tie together. And it makes for something that it does feel authentically late 80s in the way that it is pieced together, in the way that it reads moment to moment. But these songs are sophisticated, and they're built up like castles, in the sense that they've got this strong foundation that they really rely upon to create the general vernacular of riffs that cut through this whole thing. I wouldn't say that there are a ton of particularly memorable moments that really strike up and bear mention when I'm done listening to it. It's quite a long record, and the thing is that all of it is good. All of it is up that level. That means that every interesting detail is really worth repeating and coming back to. For me, this is kind of a straight 8 out of 10 death metal record. It's got enough nuance to keep things interesting. It's got its own personality. It's got fine production values. So that's a high recommendation for me. Go ahead and check it out for yourself. It released on January 13th. And if you'd like to know more of my thoughts, go ahead and check out the full written review on the website.